Welcome to rule number 2 for Dude's Guide to Life. No pain, no gain.
He doesn't feel pain, he just allows it to pass through his body. Action stars envy his physique. As a kid, he wrote poetry while his classmates struggled to read. I don't always read books, but when I do, I read 66 at a time.
Sounds like fun, right? Nobody likes pain. I get it. Nobody likes pain. And let's be honest, I'm not just talking about the physical pain. Some of us know that it's the same way in the gym. No pain, no gain. But there's also emotional pain. And nobody likes that sort of pain either. And so I remember this story of when I was in the military. I was working out twice a day. I was running about 10 to 11 miles per week just to stay in shape, eating about 5,000 to 6,000 calories a day just to maintain 175 pounds. And I was about 11% body fat. I played basketball every day. I was playing in a rec league, and basketball became, because we're competitive, they allowed it to become my physical training time. And so I was in the middle of a game, and I have a mouth on me. So when I play basketball and I get super competitive, I don't care who's in front of me, I start chirping, right? So I start giving them a little bit of trash talk, and I was trash talking my CO while we're in the game, and the CO means commanding officer. So while we're outside of the game, it's bam! I'll do whatever you tell me to do. But in the game, I don't care who you are. And started chirping at him. I went up for a rebound, caught the rebound, and he nudged me in the back, nudged me a little harder than normal, and I landed on a guy's foot and blew out my ankle. I blew out all the ligaments, and I don't know if you know who Amari Stoudemire. We live in Phoenix, Arizona, so he was part of the Phoenix Suns, and he had a horrible knee injury, and they gave him what they called microfracture surgery on his knee. So I had that, but there was another basketball player. His name was Grant Hill back in the early 2000s. Amazing guy, but he broke his ankle and tore his ligaments, and they had to re-suture his ligaments and permanently suture them together. I had that too. So I had both of them on my foot and on my ankle, reconstructive ankle surgery. And I went from 175 pounds to 240 pounds over the span of about a year and a half. I went from working out 2 to 3 hours a day to not working out at all. That was difficult. And the reason why it was difficult, and as you could tell, it's been 10 years later, and I finally got to a place. I called a coach last week and I said, I need help. I have been trying to figure out how to do this for so long, but every time I work out, my ankle hurts so badly. And one time I even tried to pay a physical trainer to actually help me, pay them a lot of money. And I told him about my ankle. I said, if you make my ankle to where it swells up, I won't be able to come back. And then the mental game starts wearing me out before I ever get into the gym. And I spent a lot of money, and my wife's like, ugh! And then he killed me the first workout, and I didn't go back. And I still paid the 6 months worth of training, but the issue for me was the pain. Every time I walked out of the gym, I could barely walk. At times still today, as I work on a construction project, as I'm renovating my home, by the end of the day, my ankle's swollen. I feel pain all the time because of what happened over a decade ago. So often we live lives that we really work to get rid of pain in our lives. We hate it. We have a problematic relationship with pain. Every man, every woman has an issue. We work to live and have a life and an existence of happiness and joy and fulfillment. And that's true. That's awesome. But in the world, we have pain. And as men, here's what we often do. We dominate our society, we dominate our environment, we dominate our relationships because we're afraid of pain. Or we go the exact opposite direction, where we're absent, where we're not present, where we become passive, all for the sake of making sure the peace stays here in our relationship, in our lives, so that we don't deal with emotional pain. And the root of this is that fear. The fear of becoming hurt. None of us enjoy pain. And this is the lie that culture is designed to have us believe. That greatness, that fulfillment is on the other side of happiness. Jesus says something very different. And James, his brother, relays this message to us. And he says this, if he were alive today in America, this is exactly how he'd say it, I think. No pain, no gain. You see, strength comes from above, comes through the storm, not despite it. We have to embrace suffering and we'll be empowered by it. Because greatness is on the other side of hard. And we should be glad when our trust in Jesus is challenged. And that's what James is talking about today. When we have faith and we believe certain things and we begin to act in a way that is congruent with our beliefs, we're gonna have trouble. I know, it sucks, doesn't it? We don't want to have it, but we are going to have it. In fact, Jesus is the only religious figurehead that sits here and doesn't try to do away with pain and suffering. In fact, he says, guess what? I am King of the universe. I am the Son of God. Your Father, the creator of heaven and earth, loves you and cares about you. So he sent me here to rescue you. And you're going to have suffering if you trust and follow me. No other religious figurehead, no other person that tries to give us meaning to life, whether it's Buddha, whether it's Muhammad, whether it's Joseph Smith and his prophetic words, whether it's anybody else, no religious figure in the world has said, you know what? Suffering is a part of life and a very precious part of life. The only person that does that is Jesus. And we would love for him to actually get rid of it. But I think the fact that he says that's not going to be the case, I think that makes him one of the most logical people to follow. Because he doesn't try to do away with it. He gives us strength because of it, not despite it. We discover life by embracing suffering. If you want a life of significance and fulfillment and inner peace, that nothing is missing, nothing is broken, everything as it should be, Jesus came to do that inside of us first. And he says the best way to do that is to be tempered by suffering. Now, I don't know if you know what tempering is, but as I was in the military, my first job was aircraft metals technician. And so I learned to weld and machine, and we built a lot of metal parts for the F-16. And as I was training, they began to show us how to harden metal and how to make it more pure. You heat it up, you get it really hot, and then you start beating it. That's how you do it. You make it stronger and you make it purer by putting it through the fire and beating the heck out of it. And you form it and fashion it to the way you need it. You can mold it when it's malleable, and suffering for the metal makes it malleable. The same goes for us. So James says this, developed perseverance produces peace. Say that 5 times fast. Developed perseverance, see, I can't even do it. Developed perseverance produces peace. Nothing produces perseverance like your garden variety suffering. The word peace is a word we talk about a lot here and means shalom. Shalom was the Hebrew word for peace, but it had a bigger meaning. This nothing missing, nothing broken, everything as it should be. It was hearkening back to Eden, the beginning, before sin and death entered the world. Everything was right, and Jesus came to bring us this peace. At first here, inside of ourselves and with relationship with each other. And then he's going to come back and complete the job with creation itself. But we live in a world that is not the case, right? We live in 2020 and 2021 where nobody gets along. Well, suffering, when you share your story and you begin to talk about what's gone on in your life, there's something about it that just galvanizes you to another person. You begin to see each other as humans that have a really unique and valuable take on the world. But so often we don't want to open ourselves and share with others what we have suffered and how we have suffered. And so often we don't want to listen to that because, God forbid, that would make us more compassionate toward what they went through. But James is telling us we should do more of that. And so, like a piece of steel going through the fire and being beat with the hammer, trials temper us. They make us stronger. They make us purer. And so we got to practice perseverance. Now, how do we become proactive in suffering so that we can develop perseverance? That's an amazing question, because most of us let suffering happen to them, but God is calling us to lean into suffering. That time, that preparation time is not lost time. And so the first thing we got to do, James says, is ask for wisdom. Here he says, if any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all, without finding fault, and it will be given to you. But when you ask, you must believe and not doubt, because the one who doubts is like a wave of the sea, blown and tossed by the wind. That person shouldn't expect to receive anything from God. Such a person is double-minded and unstable in all their way. They can't make up their mind. That's what he means by double-minded. So he goes on and he says, don't doubt, trust God. Now, you see, trust has three main ingredients. Here's what I know. I love my wife. My wife and I have a lot of fun. We're getting ready to celebrate our 10th year of being married. And it's a crazy story. When I came home for surgery with my ankle, I met and married her within 8 weeks, and we're still best friends. It's amazing. And we know this, though. Trust happens over time. It takes time. It takes time to build trust. It doesn't happen overnight. It's a process of knowing each other and growing in intimacy with each other. And intimacy means the moment that I can see into your heart and I can get to know your motives, not just look at your actions. When I look at you, I see a good-willed person on the inside of you because I've taken time to recognize and care for you as a person. That is the first ingredient to trust. The second one is experience. You know, the best relationships you have, it's because you went through crap together. Whether you call it trauma bonding or not, at the end of the day, some of the best relationships you had, you're like, dude, we have been through the storm and we've come out the other side. In fact, in the military, we call these guys battle buddies. You just know they got your back. You've experienced the storms of life, the suffering together, and it brings you closer. God knows that. It's the second ingredient. One of the reasons my wife and I still get along is, you know, we went from putting $20,000 in our bank account one month when we owned a business to making $1,600 the next month. And then for the next year after that, as I became an intern in church planting and starting churches, I went from making a lot of money to making no money. That was such a trial and such an experience. And we began to look at the problem together and say, how can we solve this? How can we work together? How can we support each other through this storm? Some of you look at each other and rather than point at the problem together, you point at the person. Don't do that. Experience life together. Look at it together and go, we'll get through this together. The third is confidence. You see, we know how they're going to act and react to challenges. We know if they'll come through. We know that, here's the kicker, most look for confidence in a relationship without the other two ingredients. They don't want to build the time. They don't want to have experience together, but they want to have the confidence in a person. But honestly, confidence is built over time through an experience to understand how somebody will act and react in a crisis. I know how my wife's going to act. I know where her weaknesses are. I know where her strengths are. She knows where mine is at. And so we can play off of each other. So we have a confidence in each other that I can support her in certain areas and she can support me. Time, experience, and confidence. And here's the deal. So often we want to have confidence in God, but we don't want to spend time and we don't want to experience Him. That's just the truth. The truth is, we don't want to work at a relationship with God. So when we ask, we want to have confidence that He'll do it, but we don't have the relationship. We don't have the time and the experience and the confidence, so we can't really trust God, can we? Because we're trying to do the third piece of the puzzle, just put a recipe full of confidence without time and experience. So, when the proverbial you know what hits the fan, we're dealing with the fact that we don't have the solidification of time and experience to go with our confidence, and the confidence doesn't actually build a solid relationship. And so we begin to question God and question His motives and question whether or not He's going to come through with us, for us in those moments. This is how doubt creeps in. Asking God in the middle of suffering without invested time and experience is hope. It's not trust. So, to build trust, you must know God. You must not know about Him. You must know Him. It's not just about reading your Bible and saying, I know a lot about things about God. It's about spending time in prayer, beginning to have conversation with Him, or just shutting up and sitting there and being still and knowing that He's God. And I guarantee you, He will speak when those happen, because most of the time we just don't shut up long enough for Him to talk. But if we will begin to build a relationship by spending the time and growing in experience with Him, we can gain confidence, and that confidence builds trust. So how do we do that? We do that through spiritual practices. These help us get to know Him by communicating with Him and giving us space for Him to communicate with us. Time and consistency. Once won't cut it. Make it a habit. And start small. Stillness, silence, solitude, something that American culture is not good at, especially us guys. Most of us have got to move and shake or stay distracted. We don't take the time to begin to quiet ourselves, quiet our bodies, and be in a place where it's just quiet. We need that time. We need these moments, because it says, in the silence, the still, small voice of God will begin to speak with us. That's when we build confidence, so that in the middle of the storm, we can begin to silence ourselves and know how to do it. When everything's raging around us, we've had experience, and we gain peace. The next thing we got to do is we got to perceive our circumstances accurately. In the middle of the storm, we tend to think we're at our worst. And when things are great, we tend to think God's at work. Here's what James says. He says, believers in humble circumstances ought to take pride in their high positions. Did you just hear that? Jesus' followers in humble circumstances should take pride in the fact that they don't have much. Even if they're in a difficult position, they could take pride. Why? Why? We'll get to that, because he says the next thing. But the rich should take pride in their humiliation. This is so backwards to what our culture says. It says when you're rich and you're doing well, God is at work. When you are poor and when you're dealing with difficult situations and nothing is going right, you probably have a problem. You're not following God because God just blesses you with good times all the time. This is a lie. That's what James is saying here. Here's what he says. He says they should take pride in their humiliation since they will pass away like a wildflower. For the sun rises with scorching heat and withers the plant. Its blossoms fall and its beauty is destroyed. In the same way, the rich will fade away even while they go about their business. So they work and work and work to amass wealth and continue to do that. And while they're doing that, they're aging and they're getting older and they can't slow it down. It may look like with all the plastic on their face, but they're still dying and they're still going to die like everyone else. Last time I checked, the only stat that's 100% correct is 10 out of 10 of us will never make it out alive. We make stats up 87% of the time anyways, right? But that's the one you can count on and take it to the bank. So here's the deal. He said, blessed is the one who perseveres under trial, because having stood the test, that person will receive the crown of life that the Lord has promised to those who love him. If you're going through a storm, it doesn't mean that God has abandoned you. In fact, he might be blessing you through the storm. That's what James is saying. He's saying the storm is a sign of God's blessing on your life, perfecting your faith through him. Stop looking at it like it's the problem when it actually is the thing that is causing your faith to grow stronger and become tempered and become more pure. So here's the deal. Here's what he's saying. Be honest about your position. When things are good, that doesn't mean you are. Humble yourself. And take pride that you won't escape life alive. All of this is fleeting. The second one, when things are bad, that doesn't mean you are. Take pride in the fact that God finds you worthy to suffer with him. So what matters is that you persevere in good times and bad. And know that God will reward you. But James has a disclaimer for us. He says that not all pain is gain. Here's what he writes. He says, when tempted, no one should say, God is tempting me. For God cannot be tempted by evil, nor does he tempt anyone. You hear that all the time, that God must have done this to me. God put this in front of me. No, 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 no. He goes on and says this, but each person is tempted when they are dragged away by their own evil desire and enticed. Then after desire has conceived, it gives birth to sin. And sin, when it is fully grown into adulthood, gives birth to death. Don't be deceived, my dear brothers and sisters. Every good and perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of the heavenly lights, who does not change like shifting shadows. He chose to give us birth through the word of truth, that we might be a kind of first fruits of all he created. Now, what James is saying there is that God is making us into something beautiful and special. First fruits to an ancient Jew was the best of whatever they had, and they would offer it to God. And God is saying, through suffering, he is creating us to be the best of what he has. But he says, don't get confused. God does not tempt you. And temptation is not tempering. It's not. He's saying that not all pain is gain. We do that stuff to ourselves. So quit blaming your shortcomings and unhealthy habits on God. It's not God's. You're addicted to the endorphin rush that you get when you indulge in those activities. I don't care what it is, whether it be shopping, whether it be sex, whether it be food. We all have those pieces. We all have those unhealthy habits. And so often we blame it on, well, this is just how God made me. Yeah. No, at times, this is how you made yourself through indulging in this temptation over and over and over and over again. These small compromises keep moving us down a road to where when you are fully mature in this road, you are leading yourself straight to destruction. That's what James is saying. So quit blaming your shortcomings on God. So here's the bottom line. Temptations are not to be confused with trials. No pain you endure from temptation brings with it any gain. Your sin is not the cross you bear. It's the evidence of your lack of trust. So you have to make a choice. Are you going to continue to live a life full of temptation and succumb and indulge to that temptation? Or are you going to be willing to allow yourself to be tempered? Allow yourself to go through the fire. Quit running from pain. Quit running from suffering, but lean into it and count it joy when Jesus asks you to go through the fire, asks you to be beat up a little bit, because all he's wanting to do is make you more pure, make you more strong, and make you more like him. He wants you to be tough as nails. Guess what? Nails are metal. They have to go through the fire as well. They have to be formed. They have to be strong. He wants you to be tough. What are you going to do? Are you going to be tempted or are you going to be tempered? So here, what we need to do. We need to make a decision. We need to say yes to suffering when it comes our way. We need to count it joy. We need to spend time with God so that when we do, and we will, because we all do. We all go through suffering. We need to spend time with him so we can trust him. So when we ask him for wisdom to make it through, we know he'll answer us because we're not double-minded. We're not looking to have confidence in this entity we know nothing about. We need to be tempered and not tempted. And when storms come, that's when temptation usually comes with it. But the only way to defeat it is to know God. Knowing God will give us the tools and the ability to make it through suffering and let it refine us, let it strengthen us, and let it reveal more purpose, more meaning, and more fulfillment in our lives. What are you going to be? Are you going to be tempted? Or are you going to be tempered? The choice is yours.